The Taliban rained down missiles on central Kabul, hitting the presidential palace during a live address by the Afghan leader, who on Sunday had proposed a ceasefire. Also coming up on the programme, the Syrian army gears up to retake the militant-held enclave of Idlib. Western media outlets warn of a civilian massacre. The same outlets, though, fail to mention the area is under the control of jihadist groups accused of war crimes. And the young Russian boy whose mother is severely ill and in need of difficult-to-obtain medication appeals to locals in his city to help save her. We look at what the response to his appeal was. Around the clock, across the world, this is your RT International. From the team and myself, Ewan O'Neill, hello and welcome. The Afghan capital saw 3 hours of heavy gun fighting on Tuesday between security forces and insurgents. Earlier in the day, missiles rained down on central Kabul, fired, according to local police, by the Taliban. The country's president was delivering a live televised speech at the time.
که دوی فکر که تدراک توپ هم لولانده داولس سرتیتی بیاد فکرو کی.
Yeah, just to give you a sense of the location, the missiles landed in the diplomatic district of the city where government buildings are situated. As we just saw, the presidential palace was among the buildings hit, and also reportedly was the US embassy as well. Well, the Taliban has been increasing its military activity of late, with another assault carried out by the group on Monday. Taliban fighters ambushed 3 buses, taking almost 200 people hostage. Later on Monday, Afghan security forces reportedly freed almost 150 or so of those people. Journalist Sultan Faizi sent us this report from Kabul.
Well, it has been more than 3 hours that we still have been hearing some RPG and gunfire from the side, which is not more than 6 kilometers from our location. And here, police believes that there have been 2 up to 3 assailants involved into this attack, and so far some up to 10 rockets have been fired into different locations. Kabul police says that 2 policemen have been slightly injured into these attacks, but the location have been evacuated. The firefighters have arrived and trying to douse, and we have to wait and see what will be the latest about, because we still do not have any clue about the civilian casualties.
Well, Tuesday's missile attack came after the Afghan president offered a ceasefire on Sunday to last for the duration of the Muslim holiday Eid al-Adha. It looks like the attacks are a scorning response to that proposal. Daniel Hawkins reports now on the current relations between Afghanistan and the Taliban.
The 3-month ceasefire proposed by President Ghani is not the first such motion in Afghanistan. It probably won't be the last. It has the blessing of the US. Time for peace has a better ring to it than war on terror. Regardless, the Taliban have firmly rejected it, instead continuing a countrywide military offensive.
I saw my friend dying. He was among 13 people, including children and women, who were killed during an airstrike last night.
There is no attention from the government and no facilities for the residents. Dead bodies are still on the roadsides. I've also been injured.
Militant commanders say the truce will only benefit the US-led forces. They've also been clear no peace will be possible in Afghanistan as long as the foreign occupation carries on. And as coalition forces approach their 17th year of operations in the country, how simple things seemed all those years ago.
We acted, and the Taliban no longer is in power in Afghanistan, which is not only good for the security of the free world, it is incredibly good for the people who suffered in Afghanistan under barbaric rule.
A decade and a half later, the Taliban control large swathes of territory and are able to strike at security forces and civilians almost at will. Afghanistan has been a battleground for various militant groups, something the US views pragmatically.
The Taliban are fighting ISIS, and we encourage that because ISIS needs to be destroyed.
The Afghan question has forced the US to sway between a military solution and negotiations with the Taliban. With such hot-cold rhetoric from the White House, it's hardly surprising the possibility of mediation has taken years to arise. It's been quite a balancing act for Washington.
We have the Taliban willing to come to the negotiating table.
There's no talking to the Taliban. We don't want to talk to the Taliban. We're going to finish what we have to finish.
I want to reinforce to the Taliban that the only path to peace and political legitimacy for them is through a negotiated settlement.
The Taliban trembles as they hear our approach.
There is interest that we picked up from the Taliban side even going before the Kabul conference.
The Taliban cannot win. Their choices are to reconcile, live in irrelevance, or die.
In September, Taliban representatives have been invited for talks in Moscow alongside government officials, bypassing the United States. If successful, these could become a step towards the longest ceasefire of them all, a permanent solution to a decades-long cycle of violence, something that today looks as distant as ever.
Well, just about those talks, the Taliban and Afghan government are scheduled to meet in Moscow in a few weeks. The Russian foreign minister confirmed the plans for the meeting, saying the reaction's been encouraging from both sides.
We have never hidden our contacts with the Taliban. They are a part of Afghan society. Our contacts are aimed at providing security for Russians in Afghanistan, but also to make the Taliban end its armed fight and start negotiations with the government. A couple of years ago, we initiated the so-called Moscow format, where we invited Afghanistan and their neighbours in the region and the USA to start negotiations with foreign support. Another summit takes place in early September, with the Taliban and the Afghan government both invited. The first reaction was positive. They're planning to take part in the meeting. We hope it'll be productive.
We discussed the prospects of the talks between the Taliban and the Afghan government with investigative journalist Nicholas Davis and political analyst Intizar Kadim.
The Afghan government just recently understood the crucial role by the other superpowers in the region. Russia, of course, is one of the strongest countries. Russia can play a pivotal role in mediating between the Taliban and the Afghan government. And everybody in Afghanistan is hoping that something good will happen after the conference in Moscow, and then Russia is mediating. Taliban will be also invited. The Afghan government could be also a participant of the conference. So there could be some more progresses in Afghanistan, and because the negotiation and the interaction between the Afghan government and Taliban is just on the very fast speed.
The Taliban have obviously, on their side, have concluded that, they need to apply more pressure to force the U.S. to talk to them. In a sense, it's ironic because, the U.S. have always talked about applying enough military pressure to bring the Taliban to negotiations, to the peace table. That has always been the official U.S. policy. But in fact, it's the Taliban who are doing that, and probably have more chance of success.